Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Sunday, February 15th. We didn't do great yesterday on the show. It was 2-2. I was pretty confident starting out because we got the easy easy blowout win with Iowa State, easily covering that number there. No question about it. But then we started failing with Charleston Southern. I don't know what happened in that game. I didn't watch any of that game, but they were within 6 points with not that long left in the first half, I'm pretty sure. And then all of a sudden they're down 20 at halftime. I'm like, what is going on here? They wound up losing by 10. I don't think they ever got back into it. That was bad. Iowa got absolutely blown out. I don't know what to tell you about that either. Iowa could not score at all in that game. Very surprising because Purdue is not an elite defensive team. I don't know what happened in that game. And then we did finish the day with a win with Texas. So we did go 2-2. We move on to today. I have some opinions on today's college basketball. We have only college basketball today. I didn't even see who won the NBA stuff. I did not even see. I'm going to look right now. Who won it? 3-point contest. Who won? It was Lillard. Oh, I was right. And then Johnson won the dunk contest. I don't know anything about that. But, hey, my lean was correct in the 3-point contest, it looks like. There you go. All right. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to give out one play in college basketball. I have a few that are like – there are a few games where I'm like, I want to make – there were a few that were close to being plays for me. Let's say I landed on one that I thought was actually strong enough, and – I considered having no plays. We can get right into it, man. ESPNU at noon. We have UTSA at Charlotte. This is a horrendous game. I don't know why this game's on TV. UTSA is abysmal. They don't even have a win in conference, in the American Conference. Charlotte is not even that good, although they're a double-digit favorite in this one because UTSA is that bad. UTSA already lost at home to Charlotte by 16 points, so Charlotte might not take them seriously. UTSA might be in a situation where they're just going to be trying to get a win to spare themselves some embarrassment, I would say, of a winless season in conference. Charlotte is coming off a pretty ugly loss to Memphis, but still, that was kind of a big game. They did lose by a lot, 23, but they also have Tulsa on deck. I would probably have to lean to UTSA in this one, just knowing that Charlotte is not that good. Don't know how motivated Charlotte is going to be to really win this game by a huge margin. They're a 14.5-point favorite, 79% of the tickets, only 51% of the cash. So the market read is saying to take the points with UTSA. I will not disagree with that, but no strong read on that game at all. ESPN at noon, Utah is at Cincinnati. Utah comes into this game off of a couple of covers in a row, I think, against Kansas and Houston. I think it was more the case that those two teams just didn't pay attention to them, and Utah still lost Utah's terrible. Certainly way worse than those two teams, although they're stepping down in class to play Cincinnati. Cincinnati not as good as that. Cincinnati laying a lot of points here. I could see this read going one of two ways here, really, because you might look at, like, people might look at this and think 11.5 is just a huge number to be laying with a Cincinnati team that's just above 500, barely. So there is that way to look at it, but the other way to look at it is that Cincinnati stinks on offense, and the spot isn't exactly that great for them, as they just killed Kansas State. Kansas State's not good, but still, you beat anybody by almost 30 points on the road, you're going to be feeling pretty good about yourselves. And they got Kansas and Texas Tech on deck. Don't believe they played Utah this year. This might be the only time they played them, but considering all of that, I think I would probably have to take the points with Utah in this one. It does look like Cincinnati is still a public side. Public just wants nothing to do with Utah. 70% of the tickets, 69% of the cash on Cincinnati. And like I was alluding to, laying a ton of points with Cincinnati is usually not a good idea because they can't score. They mostly focus on defense, even though they do actually play fast. Cincinnati down from 11.5 to 11. Total is low in the 140s. I think it makes sense to lean towards taking the points in that one. Fox Sports 1 at noon. Maryland at Rutgers. Maryland is coming off two big upsets in a row. They upset Minnesota on the road. Now, it was big as far as the number, because I think Maryland was probably at least a 7-point underdog in that one. Although I don't know if mentally you think it's that big to beat Minnesota. But then Maryland turned around and they beat Iowa. And I believe Maryland, even though they were at home, they were like double-digit underdogs in that game. So they were coming off two monster wins, and now they get this horrible Rutgers team here on the road. At least from Maryland, they only have to go up to New Jersey for this. But so it's not a horrible travel spot for them going from home to Rutgers. But Rutgers, I mean, right now they're looking for a win because they haven't had one in 7 games. They're coming off, I guess, a respectable loss at home to Nebraska, only losing by 12, staying at home with Maryland coming off a big upset like that. I think I would have to lean towards Rutgers in this one. Not going to be anything that makes my card. The money is completely disagreeing. The money is saying Maryland on this. I don't see it. I could not back Maryland. A horrible team off of a huge upset win like that. I couldn't do it. Rutgers has dropped from 2.5 to 1.5 here. 51% of the tickets on Rutgers. 77% of the cash on Maryland, though. I don't really see how Rutgers would be a public side in this game, though. Like, you would think that the public would see, oh, well, Maryland has 10 wins now. They just pulled off that win over Iowa. Getting, like, at least a 1.5 here. Like, why would the public... I don't think that the public would be on Rutgers in this game is what I'm saying, so I don't really know what to make of those market percentages there. But those are my thoughts on that. CBS at 1 p.m. Eastern, Indiana at number 8, Illinois. This is actually a pretty good game, even though Illinois will be a big favorite here. Indiana, they might have a little bit more motivation in this one because they're trying to make the tournament still, whereas Illinois obviously will be in it regardless of what happens from here on out pretty much. Indiana, they're on a nice little run here. They beat Oregon in their last game, an easy win, but still that will be kind of a momentum continuing win coming into this one. Illinois might be in bounce back mode too, though, and that's kind of the problem because they did take their first loss in a long time when they lost to Michigan State in what was also a huge game. So I told you I thought Illinois would be hung over coming off of that, because when a team loses a long win streak, especially in a big game like that, they do have a tendency to be hung over in the next game, and they lost at home as a big favorite to Wisconsin. So you could make the argument that Illinois will actually show up and bounce back off of that. I can't do anything with this game. The way I handicap it from a side perspective, I would probably lean towards Indiana plus the points, though. Illinois does also, they slow the game down now, so they're a different Illinois team than what we're used to over the last few years, even though they are a good offensive team as well still and not great on defense, I think, which is why the total is in the 150s. But 55% of the tickets are on Illinois, 60% of the cash on Indiana. With both teams showing up focused, I just think maybe the line value might be on playing the team that's not ranked, although Illinois is definitely deserving of that ranking, if not higher. So I got to bring up KenPom again here. But, yeah, KenPom has Illinois 7th right now. All right. Holy Cross at Loyola, Maryland. The only thing I can really say is that Holy Cross just played Colgate fairly tough, even though Holy Cross was losing by double digits pretty late in that game. They made a late comeback that was too little too late, but you could make the argument they played tough and they took Colgate almost to the wire there, sort of, in that they got back to within 4 pretty late in the game at the very least. I don't believe they played. No, they have not played Loyola, Maryland yet this year, so it would just simply be a hangover spot for Holy Cross in this one, and they're having to go to Maryland to play this game, which is one of the spots where they'd have to go further away from their home in the conference. Loyola, Maryland just won on the road at Lafayette, which was a decent win. It was a revenge win. They only have Army on deck, though, which is not really going to be a big deal. Army is a terrible team, but I think I would probably lean to Loyola, Maryland in this one if I was going to do anything with it. Although they did drop from a 4.5-point favorite to a 3.5-point favorite, low total in the 140s. Just do with all the information what you want to, man. Denver and Omaha on CBS Sports at 1 p.m. My first instinct on this was we should fade Omaha in this game because they're coming off 2 big games now where they played actually pretty tough against North Dakota State on the road. Actually, after playing North Dakota difficult on the road as well. Both those teams near the top of the conference. North Dakota State is in the driver's seat in the conference. Those were 2 big games. And then Omaha beat St. Thomas, who might actually still be the best team in this conference. Huge win for Omaha against St. Thomas, although they were only 4.5-point underdogs in that one because they were at home. But St. Thomas was on like a nice run as a road favorite. Like St. Thomas, I think, hadn't lost as a road favorite for many, many games in a row. Pretty big win for Omaha, man. Now they're playing a Denver team that they already beat on the road. However, they don't have anything up next. They got Oral Roberts next, which is not a big deal at all. They're horrible. But I do think it's a letdown spot, plus maybe Omaha won't take Denver as seriously, even though their win at Denver was close. Denver comes into this game off a win over South Dakota State, though, which South Dakota State not having a good season, but I still think when you beat South Dakota State, there's kind of that, like, I don't know. I think it's a decent win as far as, like, they have a lot of name recognition in the Summit League. So it's not just like a whatever type of win, really, especially it was in revenge, actually, for Denver because they had lost at South Dakota State earlier this year. So I don't want to do it, but I would lean to Denver in this one. I think the spot does set up better for them. Money, again, disagreeing with me on this one. Omaha is a 2.5-point favorite. 74% of the cash on them and 60% of the tickets on Denver. That doesn't make any sense to me. You would think that the way Omaha's been playing recently, you would think the public would not really want to be on Denver in this one, although the teams have the same records and, taking the points. Sometimes the public will lean that way, but I don't know. The public is very recency biased too, although, yeah, Denver's won a couple of games in a row too, so I don't know, but I will stay off of that game. Just a lot of these games have some interesting handicapping aspects to them. Youngstown State at Detroit in the horizon. This is an interesting one, too, as Youngstown's coming off a win at Oakland. So I'm like, oh, they could be in a letdown spot off of that. That was a nice win over one of the top teams in the horizon. I dug into it a little bit. Oakland was actually only like a 3.5-point favorite in that one. So Youngstown is actually better than the record looks, according to the odds makers. Now they're playing a second straight road game, though, a third road game in 4 games, so that's not that easy, but they do only have Cleveland State on deck. And I know Cleveland State went on a nice run in the middle of the season, and actually Youngstown only beat them by 2 on the road, so I guess there is the possibility that maybe they will take Cleveland State seriously going into that next game, but they're not going to overlook Detroit. They might overlook Detroit. What am I saying? I'm all messed up right now. I don't think they're going to overlook Detroit because they did lose at home already to Detroit. So there is a road revenge angle here for Youngstown, and presumably they were a decent-sized favorite when they lost that game. Yeah, they were 9.5-point favorites. So I think there is a legitimate road revenge angle to look at here, where Youngstown will make the adjustments and actually take Detroit seriously. So I started looking at it. Initially, I was like, oh, Youngstown's in a letdown spot off of Oakland. But now but then I looked at the game from like every other aspect of it, and everything else puts me on Youngstown in this one. Detroit Mercy is actually coming off a bigger upset at Wright State. They were like 11.5-point underdogs in this one, man. Detroit Mercy is not a good team. Not as good as their record looks. So the odds makers are really telling you there's a disparity here between Youngstown and Detroit Mercy here. So I think Detroit Mercy might actually be in the bigger letdown spot here, although they are coming back home from a 3-game road trip, which is not a bad thing in college. And they don't have a big game on up next. They have Milwaukee, who they already beat on the road, so it's not as big of a deal. I don't think, but they did beat Youngstown on the road already. They are coming off the bigger upset, so take all that into consideration. I do actually lean to Youngstown in this one. They're up from 2.5 to 3.5 here. So again, the odds makers are telling you something. It looks like a pretty weird line, right? Where you see both teams, the teams have pretty similar records. Detroit Mercy actually a better record in conference. Youngstown laying points on the road, but that's for a reason. They are actually the significantly better team. I would lay it in that one, but the money looks like it's on Detroit, and I don't understand why. 80% of the tickets on Youngstown, 74% of the cash on Detroit. So, again, that's the information for you on that one. I'm skipping the game personally. So, yeah, a lot to consider in that game. Though both teams, you could still make the argument that both teams are in letdown spots, though, in that one. It's a very interesting game from a handicapping perspective, but it weirds me out when I see the market completely opposite me, where sometimes I will get it right and the market will get it right. I think more often than not, I get it right when I disagree with the market. So I don't know, man, but we'll see. What else do we have here? Bradley and Southern Illinois. I believe Bradley is in a letdown spot here. Yeah, they just beat Belmont. That was a huge win for Bradley. Belmont had not lost for quite a while. It was a revenge loss as well. Bradley had lost at Belmont. Huge win any way you look at it. Belmont, the best team in the Missouri Valley. So I could see this being a letdown spot for Bradley here. They're playing Southern Illinois, who they did already beat. However, Bradley only beat them by 4 earlier this year at home, and Bradley did not cover. They were 6.5-point favorites in that one, so there may be an aspect to this where maybe they'll take Southern Illinois seriously. Bradley only has Valpo on deck, unfortunately, because they already beat Valpo. That's not a look ahead. If they had Illinois State next, who they got clobbered by on the road, that would be a lot better, but that game's after the Valpo game. I think I might actually give out Southern Illinois as a play if Illinois State was literally the next game for Bradley. They'd be in a sandwich spot. As it stands, they are still in a letdown spot. I talk about how Southern Illinois has been a very undervalued commodity this year, and the odds makers are telling you that too. Southern Illinois is coming off a win over Evansville. Easy win for them, so they should be coasting into this game with some momentum. But you look at this line. Southern Illinois is a below 500 team, and they're laying 3.5. I know they get home court advantage and whatever, but the odds makers are really telling you something by having Southern Illinois laying 3.5 against Bradley, who has the way better record. You got to think the public is going to be all over Bradley in a situation like that. However, the percentages in the market look like they're not bearing that out right now. I would lean to Southern Illinois in this one. I think it's a letdown spot plus a misleading line, so I would have to lean that way. They're up from 2 to 3 as a favorite here. Not quite 3.5, but 56% of the tickets on Southern Illinois, 56% of the cash on Bradley. I don't know what's going on with that market read. I could only see laying it with Southern Illinois in that game. And, of course, as I always point out, Southern Illinois is a very unlucky team. They're the 5th unluckiest team in the country, according to KenPom. So that's one thing to look at. They're actually very good on defense, 41st overall in defense. However, they're not a good scoring team. But KenPom has them better than Bradley, believe it or not. He has Southern Illinois 20 ranking spots higher than Bradley, and he has Bradley as a very lucky team, 53rd in luck. And Bradley more balanced, but definitely worse on defense, but better on offense. And Bradley is kind of a mid-tempo team. So it stands to reason that Southern Illinois will try to speed the game up because they do go fast. They're one of those weird teams that goes fast, but they play defense and don't really score well, kind of like Cincinnati. So KenPom, with his luck index, though, he does bear out what I just said, where Southern Illinois is way, way underperforming right now. They're way better than their record looks, and Bradley is not as good as their record looks. So that's all something to keep in mind there. And I forgot to do the same check for Youngstown. But as I was just talking about, Youngstown is like the 8th unluckiest team in the nation, according to KenPom. So, again, the odds makers are kind of telling you what KenPom is telling you here, that Youngstown is way underperformed as well. So, just like I said, whereas Detroit Mercy is 86th in luck, according to KenPom. So, another situation there. Those two games I just talked about where the line looks kind of misleading, whatever. Yeah, KenPom's luck index bears that out. So the odds makers, dude, the odds makers have a ton of money at stake. They know more than they're able to tell you more information than what the records tell you. Records can be misleading, man. Whereas the odds makers, they are actually using like valuable information to set their lines. You know what I mean? Even though their goal is not to predict the outcome, their goal is to split the money and to make money. But still, they have more information going into that line than what the records will tell you. So, because upsets and fluke results happen. Garrett, what's up, man? You're killing it. Well, that's good. I am not. I've been, I don't know, treading water for the most part. You're doing a lot of props, right? I don't know. For college, there's no way that I can do anything with props. I don't even know if we're allowed to, actually. Probably in Massachusetts, I don't even think you can do it. ESPN 2 p.m., South Florida at Florida Atlantic. So we have two Florida rivals here, if you will. South Florida's on a 3-game win streak. A couple of pretty good wins in a row against Tulsa, and then on the road at Wichita. Not a bad win there either. Now second straight road game at FAU, and they got Memphis on deck. And there is the possibility that Memphis is going to be a bigger game for them than FAU, because FAU has actually fallen behind Memphis in the standings, and South Florida already beat FAU at home by 14 points. So there's a chance they might not totally pay attention to FAU in this one. Second straight road game, traveling back to Florida from Wichita. I would have to lean to FAU in this one. FAU is coming off a really ugly loss at Rice, but you can kind of explain what happened there. FAU, they're on a 5-game skid, so I don't think anybody's really going to want them right now. But that Rice game, look at what they were doing, man. They had to travel to Houston to play Rice on the heels of almost beating Tulsa. Tulsa, I still believe, is the best team in this conference, even though they're fading recently. That was still a horrible spot for Florida Atlantic. Having to travel to Houston, coming off that huge game against Tulsa. So you can kind of explain what happened in that game. I would lean to Florida Atlantic plus the points in this one. South Florida laying 4.5 now on the road, up from 4. 75% of the tickets on South Florida, only 52% of the cash. So they are a public side with less of the money on them in a TV game on ESPN2. It's one of the more interesting games of the day. For sure, probably the best game in the American Conference today. But, yeah, I would take the points. So maybe it's even more interesting. Yeah, I agreed with Arkansas on the spread in that one, but that one was not on my card. Yeah, that was a good call. I don't really know much about the total there, but I probably would have leaned against an under in that game. Arkansas, they basically just always play overs. They play fast and they don't play defense. So they're not the style of team that I would want to be playing unders with. I think Auburn plays fast as well, if I'm not mistaken. ESPNU at 2 p.m. This is the game that I decided on to actually add to my card. The best bet, the only one. And you know me, because I gave out UAB as a play in their previous game. So what am I doing this time? Well, I'm fading them because that was a win. So now we're going to fade them with Tulane here. Taking the points with Tulane. And I know Tulane is a lucky team according to KenPom. So not exactly the type of team I'm really going to want to back very often. They're not a very good defensive team. KenPom has them the 16th luckiest team. I get that. That's not good. But looking at the fact they're playing UAB, UAB is a fairly lucky team as well. They're in the top half of luck, at least according to KenPom. And they're not that much better than Tulane, at least according to what KenPom's got going on here. So we're going to look at it from a situational perspective, though, more so than anything else. KenPom doesn't really have any, wide disparity between these teams that's going to keep me off of it. But if you remember, I gave you UAB as a play in their last game, and they upset Tulsa on the road. That was a monster win for UAB. And you remember my reasoning was UAB, Didn't play well the previous game against Rice. They'd played Memphis the game before that, so they were kind of in a sandwich spot there against Rice. They overlooked Rice, barely got by them. I thought it was a much, much bigger game for them against Tulsa. And Tulsa was coming off a close call where they lost their long win streak as well in a big game against South Florida. So I thought they were in a bad spot, and they'd already beaten UAB by 22 on the road, so it was a road revenge angle. So all of that came into play for me. And then Tulsa, by the way, did suffer another loss after that, interestingly enough, where I thought maybe they were going to have the ability to bounce back, but they actually lost at Wichita yesterday, I think. So Tulsa's on a skid right now. But anyway, we're talking about UAB here. UAB pulled off the huge win, and you can see why. They caught Tulsa in a spot where Tulsa was likely to overlook them, which is why I gave out UAB there. Now, I think UAB is in the spot where they're going to overlook Tulane, because they're coming off a monster win, one of their biggest wins of the season, man, in revenge, on the road, pulling off like almost a double-digit upset against the best team in the conference, Tulsa, knocking them from their pedestal there. Huge win for UAB. Now they get Tulane at home, and Tulane's a team they already beat on the road by 13. So even though I know Tulane's not as good as they looked early in the season, UAB just might not take them seriously enough to cover this number, man. And UAB does have Temple next. Temple is second in the conference now, believe it or not, in standings, even though I don't think they're the second best team. But that might even cause UAB to look ahead as well. So at the very, very least, it's a huge letdown spot of a huge upset and a road revenge spot for Tulane here. So, and huge letdown spot for UAB, I mean. Revenge spot for Tulane, where, again, revenge, it's more the case that the team that won in an outlier game in the first game will overlook that team, whereas the team that got blown out will have the adjustments to make, man. So it's not really revenge, like, oh, this team is really angry, but it does have to do with, like, how focused the teams are going to be. Now, Tulane, yes, I know they got a win over Temple in their last game. That looks like a good win where, oh, maybe they'll be in a letdown spot, but I don't really think so, because believe it or not, Tulane was actually favored in that game. Temple is not that good. They're not that much better than Tulane, so Tulane got that nice win. I think they will be focused on a UAB team that kind of embarrassed them on their home court, so we're going to go with it. Tulane is my only play here today. UAB is looking pretty public, man. We might be able to get a 7 on this. I think you might be able to wait a little bit and see if the 7s show up again. It's dropped from 7 to 6.5, but we see 6.5 with juice here. I'd prefer the 7 because it's a semi-key number where teams stop intentionally fouling when they fall behind by 3 possessions. 88% of tickets, 99% of the cash on UAB. I think what we can really say is that UAB will be a public side here, though, and it is the right spot to fade them. That's on TV as well, so you can watch your money either get flushed down the drain, or you can watch yourself win some money on ESPNU in the afternoon. All right. Rider at Sacred Heart. I have a lot of opinions on a lot of these games today, man, even though I only settled on one game. Now, remember, I talked about Sacred Heart, how they were I think they were actually a 1-point favorite against St. Peter's, and that looked weird, obviously, because St. Peter's is near the top of the MAAC conference. So it was like, well, why is Sacred Heart a favorite? Well, the odds makers were telling you those teams aren't separated by that much, but that resulted in me being correct with St. Peter's, but also big win for me being correct on Sacred Heart, and Sacred Heart, pretty big win over St. Peter's. So now they got that win, and now they're playing Rider. I just don't know they're really going to pay attention to Rider, man, and they have a revenge game against Fairfield coming up next. Fairfield beat Sacred Heart in Sacred Heart, and the reason why that's such a big game, not only Sacred Heart losing at home to Fairfield already, but Sacred Heart is in Fairfield, so they're in-city rivals. So that is a look-ahead spot as well. So you could make the argument this is a sandwich spot, although, yes, Sacred Heart broke a losing streak. Sometimes that will give you momentum coming into this game, but I don't see them being focused on Rider, man. They already went to Rider and put up over 100 points against them and beat them by 20. So the only way that I could look at this game is Rider. This one actually almost is on my card. It has most of the aspects if not all, really, of the aspects that I look for in this game. Rider riding another 3-game losing streak here, so you got to figure they'll probably at least give an effort in this one. Rider has they put in some decent efforts in some of these conference games. Sacred Heart is very public, 94% of tickets, only 93% of the cash. Laying 9 points here, low total in the 140s. Rider's the only way I could look at it, man. And if you look at Sacred Heart, looking at some of the games they've had at home, they have not won by margin at home, man. They're 10.5-point favorites against Canisius. They won by 3. They were huge favorites against Niagara. This is a game that I gave out a loser on, and they only won by 1 as 9.5-point favorites in that one. So they do not have a good track record as a home favorite this year, man. And they've lost to a bunch of good teams at home, too. Merrimack, Marist, Quinnipiac. Let me see. And they lost to Fairfield as well. So Sacred Heart's best home game was that win over St. Peter's, man. They've actually been bad and at home, and they've failed to cover as a favorite. They've failed to cover as a substantial favorite all 3 times at home. So that's very, very interesting, actually. In conference play, I'm talking about. This is very, very tempting, man. I'm not going to lie. Let me see what KenPom's got going on this. He's got Rider as like the 9th worst team in the entire country, but they are unlucky at 282 in luck. Let me see. Sacred Heart is pretty unlucky as well, though. Sacred Heart, very bad defensively, though. Nearly as bad as Rider on defense. Sacred Heart's going to try to speed the game up, but it looks like the odds makers are kind of thinking that's not really going to happen. Or at least Sacred Heart's offense, I guess, isn't good enough to put up that many, or maybe Rider's isn't. This is very, very tempting, man. Let me see what KenPom's got as a number on this. I mean, this would be one of the real ugly ones. He's got this. He has this line at 10. That's his projection. Man, I'll leave it off my card, but yeah, I really do like Rider in that one. Now that I look at it more, Alexander, what's up, man? I talked about that game a little while ago. I do not have a strong opinion on that game. My lean is Indiana plus the points in that one, but I don't have a strong opinion on that. I think both teams set up to be in focus spots, so it's more just about like which team I think kind of like cares about the game a little bit more and will give you a fuller effort. Plus, I think there might be more line value on the side of Indiana there, but it's not a strong opinion from me. Luis, what's up, man? Or is it Lewis? Like Luis Gomez. My only bet of the day, best play for me is Tulane plus the points. And I'm saying wait to see if the 7 shows back up on that. Tulane plus 7 or 6.5 would be that's my only play of the day, man. All right. We have what other games am I going to talk about here? Merrimack and Quinnipiac is a good game as far as MAAC conference games are concerned. Merrimack is coming off an absolute destruction of Marist. And I've been saying that I think Marist is, like, power ratings-wise, they're the best team in this conference, I think, still. And the fact that Merrimack is a team that doesn't really blow teams out. I mean, they did it to Rider, but Rider is atrocious, even though I just said I love Rider today, too. Merrimack beating Marist like that is just insane, though. Like, I don't think anybody could have predicted that. 81-56. That's got to get you really, really high on yourselves after that, man. And Merrimack already beat Quinnipiac at home by double digits. So there's the chance they don't take Quinnipiac seriously now. And they got Siena on deck, although Quinnipiac actually just leapfrogged Siena in the standings. So, I mean, Merrimack, they still may not overlook this game, but I would prefer Quinnipiac in this one, even though they're coming off a nice road upset win of Siena, which I gave you guys that as a strong lean on the show when that happened. So that was a big win for them as well. Could be maybe debatably a letdown spot for them here, but, I mean, Merrimack, that win was just, I don't know, man. It just looks way too good. So I think I would probably have to lean Quinnipiac in this one, but the money is saying Merrimack, so I'm disagreeing with the money on a lot of these games today. Quinnipiac dropped from a 2-point favorite to a 1-point favorite. 50% of tickets, 75% of the cash on Merrimack. I guess do with that information what you want to, again, but Merrimack, I mean, they're really lucky, according to KenPom, and I've been saying that all year. They're 10th in luck. Quinnipiac is 28th, though, so both these teams are lucky. Both teams are better on defense than offense. So they're actually both really, really similar teams. But I don't have a whole lot else to say about that. Oakland at Robert Morris is a somewhat interesting game. Oakland, like I said, they just got upset at home by Youngstown. So after that, plus that was following a horrible loss to an awful Cleveland State team. Maybe Oakland will bounce back from all that, playing Robert Morris here. But Oakland already beat Robert Morris by 23 at home. So there is, I guess, the chance that they don't totally take Robert Morris seriously here. Robert Morris, winners of this conference last year, they were having a rough season for a while. Now they've actually started to turn it on, and they've won 3 games in a row, most recently beating Cleveland State, which Cleveland State is awful, even though they made that weird run in the middle where they had or not that long ago, they had 5 wins in a row or whatever. This is a really difficult game to gauge, man. You got Oakland with the better conference record, Robert Morris with the better overall record, although I did tell you that Oakland is still the better team, and Oakland faced a gauntlet out of conference, which is why their overall record is that crazy. They faced some really, really good teams out of conference. But, yeah, I mean, this game is really, really hard for me to gauge, man. It's not on my card, obviously, not even close, but it's an interesting game from a handicapping perspective, I guess, just because it's kind of all over the place. And it's a good game and that it should be competitive. Robert Morris, the 1-point favorite here, or 1.5 maybe. 53% of tickets on them, 51% of the cash on Oakland. I probably do still side with Oakland a little bit, just based off of Oakland not having a great game in their last game. But my opinion on that one is not strong. I have a stronger opinion on Wright State, Cleveland State, which is the rare scenario where I would recommend laying points on the road. Wright State, they're coming off that horrible loss to Detroit Mercy, where they were double-digit favorites in that one. Like I said, Detroit Mercy is way worse than their record looks, even though they're probably better than they were. They had one really atrocious season recently. I don't remember if it was last year or a couple of years ago, but they're better than that, but they're not as good as their record looks. Wright State is one of the best teams in this conference, and I think they will right the ship against the Vikings. There you go, man. Although the Wright State are the Raiders, yeah. But theirs is like a, I don't know, their logo is like a, what is their logo? Is it it's a wolf. I don't know. I don't know why it's a wolf, but whatever. Anyway, Wright State, yeah, they're coming off a horrible loss. And like I keep saying, when a team is a huge favorite and they take a loss like that, usually they will bounce back. They have all the more reason to bounce back off of that because Cleveland State beat them at Wright State, and that was a monster upset loss again for Wright State. They were double-digit favorites in that game. They were probably 14.5-point favorites in that game and lost the game, so I think they probably remember that. That was an embarrassing loss for Wright State, and coming off another really bad one, I think you're going to get a really focused effort out of the much better team in Wright State here. Cleveland State is not even as good as their record looks. They're on a 2-game slide now. I mean, yeah, Cleveland State should show up, I guess, for this game, but they're going to have nobody in the crowd for this one, I don't think, even though it is one of the better teams in the conference. Wright State has multiple reasons to be in a hugely focused spot here. The money is, again, disagreeing with me on this game. I don't get it. I would only lay the points with Wright State in this one, though. 92% of the tickets, 68% of the cash on Wright State. It's a pretty strong market read against them. And they dropped from 7.5 to 7. But the way that I look at these games, situationally, that's the only way that I could go is Wright State in that one. And they don't have a big game on deck either. They play IUPUI. So just all the information out there, man. And Siena at Marist in the MAAC is also a pretty good game here. Siena is coming off that loss to Quinnipiac at home as, I think, about a 5-point favorite in that one. So they could be in a bounce-back mode here. But they did already beat Marist at home by 19. So there is a potential that Siena maybe overlooks them because they do have Merrimack on deck. Merrimack beat Siena at Siena already. So they might actually have one eye looking ahead to that game against Merrimack, whereas I think Marist might be in the more focused spot here because they got so embarrassed by Merrimack in their last game, and now they're back at home. It's only their second home game in the last 6 games, which is kind of a weird scheduling quirk for Marist, playing a lot of road games there as well. Yeah, I would probably lean to Marist in that one because they're the avenging team here, and they're coming off an uglier loss. So, yeah, I would lean to Marist in that one, although both teams are coming off losses to pretty good teams in the conference. Marist already dropped from a 2.5-point favorite to a 1-point favorite. It looks like the money might be coming back in on them. I would go Marist money line in this one if I was going to play it. 67% of tickets, 68% of the cash on Marist. CBS Sports, 3 p.m., Drake and Northern Iowa, which is the Battle of Iowa. These teams play again at the very end of the season because they're in-state rivals. Drake has lost 5 games in a row. I expected a better showing from Drake in their last game against Illinois Chicago, and that did not happen. Maybe we'll get a better effort here from them, man. They're going to be an underdog here at Northern Iowa, and one thing about Northern Iowa is they play defense and they don't score well, and they slow the game down. So laying a lot of points with Northern Iowa might not be the best idea, and they're coming off a couple of huge games. Look at the last 3 games for Northern Iowa. They beat Bradley, won on the road in a blowout at Murray State, who was near the top of the conference standings-wise, and I would say Murray State is probably the 3rd best team in the conference power ratings-wise, and then Northern Iowa followed that up going to Belmont, who are the best team in the conference, and Northern Iowa played them pretty tough and only lost by 5. So coming off that string of games, I think it's a bad spot for Northern Iowa coming into this one. You might get a little bit of extra effort out of Drake because I think they will consider themselves to be the little brother in that scenario in that one. I would lean to Drake. The money does seem to agree with me on that one. It's a low total, as you usually get with Northern Iowa. I think Drake probably is a slow-paced team still as well. They usually are. They're a little bit more mid-tempo this year, but Drake also an unlucky team, but they're also really bad on defense. So, yeah, Northern Iowa's the way better defensive team, but asking a defensive team that doesn't score well and plays slow to cover this, you might get 10 on Drake. The only way I could look at this game is to take the points with Drake. Total in the 130s, it's low. 77% of tickets on Northern Iowa, 61% of the cash on Drake, and again, with a low total like that, each point is worth just a little bit more, although it matters more in, like, football when there are going to be fewer points scored in a game than in basketball. But, yeah, I like Drake in that one, like the Drake. I have way too many drops here.
I don't even like Drake.
You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good.
Oh.
The Drake is good in that one, at least. Maybe. All right. What other games did I find to be interesting on the slate today here? I mean, Illinois State and Illinois Chicago is kind of an interesting game. It's competitively lined. Missouri Valley's got a bunch of competitive games this year. The setup is not really something that gives you like I don't know. I don't really have a huge situation to latch onto here. Illinois State just crushed Valpo. Illinois Chicago might still consider themselves to be the little brother in this scenario because they're usually a pretty bad team. But Illinois State lost to Illinois Chicago at home, so I think that's really kind of the biggest part of the handicap here is that first meeting, Illinois State was a huge favorite, probably close to a double-digit favorite, I would imagine, in this one, if not bigger. Yeah, 10.5. So the fact that they lost in overtime is a 10.5-point favorite there. That's going to have Illinois State, I think, taking UIC seriously in this game, even though Illinois State does have Murray State and Bradley. Actually, all the rest of their games are pretty big. Murray State, Bradley, Northern Iowa, and Belmont. But I just don't think they're going to overlook their little brother who embarrassed them on their home floor. Or not embarrassed them, but beat them as a huge beat them when they were a huge favorite, let's say. Illinois Chicago is coming off that win at Drake. Decent win for them. I think I would have to lean to Illinois State in this one, though, just because I think revenge angle is stronger. I think if you're going to get the better team in a focused scenario here, with a line where they're basically you're just picking them to win the game, I think it's Illinois State money line would be the way I would lean in this one. They're a 1-point favorite, 68% of tickets, 73% of the cash on Illinois State. Money seems like it kind of agrees with me on that one for now, although they might be the public side too. But better team, focused scenario, pick the winner spot. That's the way that I would lean in that one, although it kind of looks too easy to play Illinois State in that one. So I have my reservations about it, of course, because they have the better record. So it does look pretty easy to play them. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Davidson at Dayton is an ESPN2 game in the Atlantic 10 at 4 p.m. Eastern here. Sunday, we get mostly afternoon basketball. Davidson is coming off playing a non-Division I game, playing Mid-Atlantic College, I think is what that is. Mid-Atlantic Christian. All right, whatever. Playing MAAC. So they're coming off that game. That should continue their momentum coming into this game against Dayton. Usually that's like a tune-up type of game, although maybe it looks too good that they put up 114 points. But I don't think a team really gets overconfident off of beating some really weak non-Division I team like that. Dayton is coming off a bigger game against VCU, although they got blown out at VCU. So they're probably going to, I guess, show up for this game as well. I don't believe these teams have played this year. This might be the only matchup between them this year. Dayton does have George Mason on deck, so I guess there is the slight concern that maybe there's a look-ahead component to this, but Dayton's a 4.5-point favorite here. 65% of tickets, 74% of the cash on Dayton. I kind of lean towards taking the points in this one with Davidson, just because I like those teams that continue their momentum with these non-Division I games. Like, usually you roll into that game with momentum, so that's kind of the way that I look at that game, but no strong opinion. It is a low total there, too. ESPNU at 4 p.m., Eastern Kentucky at North Alabama in the Atlantic Sun. This is a second meeting where Eastern Kentucky won the first game at home by 8 against North Alabama. North Alabama is not a great team. Eastern Kentucky was they were 5.5-point favorites or so. They did cover that number, so there is the possibility they don't take North Alabama seriously right now. North Alabama, I think, has been playing some bad basketball recently, too. They're not a good team this year. They were a lot better last year, where I believe they made the conference final last year and lost to Lipscomb. Eastern Kentucky is coming off losing to Lipscomb, who is one of the better teams in the conference. Second straight road game. Little bit of revenge maybe for North Alabama here, or Eastern Kentucky might not take them seriously. North Alabama's lost 4 games in a row, including losing 2 in a row at home. Bad loss in their last game to West Georgia. I presume North Alabama was favored in this one because West Georgia's not good either. Yeah, they're only 1.5-point favorites, though. I would lean to North Alabama in that one. Not a strong opinion from me, but it is a TV game, you know. You're getting 4.5 points with them at home in that one. Obviously, the lesser of the two teams, but I would lean towards taking the points in that one. CBS Sports at 5 p.m. is Charleston at Campbell. And this game might be more interesting than it might look on the surface. And if the public is going to play this game and try to play some of these later TV games and get some money, they're not going to play Campbell in this one. Campbell is laying like 2.5 here, even though they're a below 500 team against a Charleston team that has a pretty good record and is legitimately one of the best teams in this conference. Well, so it looks way too easy to take the points with Charleston, which I think is what the public will do. That is not what I would do in a scenario like this where the odds makers are telling you something, man. They're basically telling you that Campbell is not that much worse than Charleston. And Charleston, I think, is in the somewhat worse spot as well. They're coming off 2 big games against UNC Wilmington and Hofstra, and they lost both games. Those were 2 of the better teams in this conference along with them. And their game against Hofstra was really close, too. So I could see them being in a bit of a hangover spot here against Campbell. I don't believe they did play Campbell already, and they beat them by 4 at home. So I guess that might be a hesitation with Campbell here because actually Charleston covered. So what am I saying? They were 3.5-point favorites in that one. So that's actually interesting as well, that Charleston was not a huge favorite at home against Campbell as well. So again, that line told you that Charleston's not that much better than Campbell. They actually covered that number. So there is the potential that they don't totally take Campbell seriously here in this one. Campbell's on a 3-game win streak. They just won at NCAAB. It was not a huge win or anything like that. NCAAB not that good. But Campbell was able to get the win on the road. Momentum coming into this one. I would have to lean to Campbell in this game, but it's not a strong opinion from me. Charleston, they do look like what I expected. They look like a public underdog in this scenario, which is not the type of team that you want to back. 71% of tickets, only 66% of the cash on Charleston. Yeah, I would fade them in this one. Campbell up from 2 to 2.5. You might still be able to find a decent money line on Campbell because they're kind of still a 2-point favorite. So that might be the way I would look to try to play that. ESPN 2 at 6 p.m. Belmont at Murray State. Good game in the Missouri Valley, man. Belmont and Murray State, they're two of the top teams in this conference. Belmont already beat Murray State at home by 17. Now, the one thing that we know is that these teams both don't play defense, though. They're both pretty bad on defense. Belmont is 60th in the country, according to KenPom. They're the best team in this conference. But they're a little bit overrated, maybe, according to him as well. They're good on offense, top 50, but not good on defense. Murray State, also really bad on defense. He's got Murray State almost in the top 100 overall, but outside of the top 200 on defense. He has them even luckier than Belmont, 46th in luck index, and does have them as a good offense. It's 61st, so we have a lot of offense in this game, man. So it might be another high. I don't see any way this is not another high-scoring game here. Both teams play fast tempo-wise. They both are bad on defense and very good on offense. Belmont's coming off a nice win over Northern Iowa. They put up 91 against the best defense in the conference. Nice bounce-back win for Belmont. And the fact that they already beat Murray State might have them, a little bit unfocused here. And they actually have Indiana State next, and that's actually a revenge game because Belmont actually lost to Indiana State, and that's one of 3 conference losses on the season. They already avenged their loss to Southern Illinois. Their other loss was to Bradley, which I believe they beat Bradley already earlier in the season. Yeah, so the only conference team that has a win against Belmont this year that is not avenged by Belmont is Indiana State, and that's who they play next. So I kind of like Murray State in this one, man. Murray State coming off beating Indiana State by 2 on the road. That's not that impressive. They might have been looking ahead to Belmont. And people are going to look at that recent matchup where Belmont beat Northern Iowa at home, and Murray State got absolutely torched by Northern Iowa at home. So people are going to look at that and think, this is way easy. You play Belmont, right? Because Belmont already crushed Murray State once. Belmont beat Northern Iowa, who just beat Murray State. So in the public's eye, I think they're all going to be on Belmont in this one, and that is not what I would do. I would play Murray State. 75% of tickets are on Belmont, only 72% of the cash. Belmont is indeed looking like a public side here and a public underdog. Murray State money line would be the way I would play it. They're -1 basically in the game. I would not disagree with an over in this game either, though. The total did drop 4 points to 167.5. Don't really agree with that move, though. Again, it's just the style of game. I think if you're going to try to play an under in that game, I think you're playing with fire in that type of game. It's a very high total for a reason. All right. Fox Sports 1 at 6 p.m. Seton Hall at Butler. These teams already played, and Seton Hall actually lost by 11 at home to Butler. So right away, there's a road revenge angle for Seton Hall here. Seton Hall were 6.5-point favorites in that game, and they were ranked at the time. So I think Seton Hall will remember that and want to try to get Butler back for that. Or Butler might not take them as seriously, however you want to look at it. The road revenge angle is a decent angle in the second meetings. Seton Hall also ended a 2-game losing streak with an unimpressive win over Providence. So I think they do have some momentum coming into this one. Providence is a bad team. Providence, we saw yesterday, St. John's was able to get their revenge and cover, even in a game where half of St. John's team got ejected from the game. I don't know if you guys saw that game yesterday, but there were brawls going on. I think Providence was really, really getting angry. I think St. John's has Bryce Hopkins, who I think used to be on Providence. With the transfer portal, these guys are all over the place. I mean, I think Hopkins was on Providence and Kentucky, and now he's on St. John's. But the Providence crowd was really, really giving him shit. The police actually had to come in. Multiple fans got ejected from the game. I had the game on. It was absolute insanity. It was one of the most insane games of the year. Just because of the non-basketball aspects of the game. The police had to come in and separate the Providence student section from the St. John's fans that were like one section over, because they were basically getting involved in fights, and it was mostly the Providence student section were the aggressors in it too. So it was totally ridiculous, and some of them got tossed. And then there were 7 ejections in the game. I think 4 players got ejected on the St. John's side and 3 on the Providence side. It was absolutely insane. And then Rick Pitino took Bryce Hopkins out of the game just to get his team to focus on like the home stretch of the game and winning the game, which I think was a good move, because Hopkins being on the floor was like motivating Providence and whatever, and causing like all that shit to happen. It was a total distraction. So Pitino took Bryce Hopkins out of the game, even though he's one of their best players, and they wound up winning and covering, finishing the game with him out of the game. Both teams were playing a lot of their backups at that point because of all the ejections, though. It was absolutely insane. I don't know what else I had to say about that game, but that game was crazy yesterday. And I just happened to have it on, not realizing that it was going to get that insane. But, I don't think I had anything else to say about that game. But, Rick Pitino with the right move there.
Yeah, inside, I want to kill myself.
Yeah, he was not saying that after that game yesterday. Anyway, we're talking about Seton Hall Butler here. Seton Hall beat that Providence team. Now they're going to Butler here. Again, Seton Hall already lost at home to Butler. I like Seton Hall in this one, man. I think they're going to show up for this game. Butler is coming off a pretty big game against UConn. They lost by 10, and Butler was down double digits in the home stretch of that game. They wound up barely covering at the end of it. UConn was covering for a little bit at the end of that game, too. That game was right near the number. But Butler did play a close game for about half of the game. Big game that they're coming off of, man, and staying at home after that. Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument Butler should show up here because they're on a 5-game losing streak. But Seton Hall is also a bubble tournament team right now, so I think they kind of need the game a little bit more. And they are actually a favorite in this game. Maybe the line's a little bit too high now on Seton Hall, because if they were 6.5-point favorites at home, they should probably be about a pick 'em in this game, and that's where it opened, but now it's 2.5. So I don't know if there's really any line value left here, but I would lean to Seton Hall. I mean, if you can find a decent money line price still on Seton Hall, that might be the way to look at this game. 76% of the tickets are on Seton Hall, 55% of the cash on Butler. So again, the market read is disagreeing with me. And some of it might just be because the number might just be a little bit out of whack there, but I would have to go Seton Hall in that game from a situational standpoint at the very least. And maybe there are still some money lines out there that are palatable. And then we got Towson and Monmouth. This is the last TV game at 7 p.m. on CBS Sports. Not the greatest game, although I think Towson, I keep saying they're a little bit of an undervalued commodity here. They did just get a win and cover against Stony Brook. Now they're going on the road to face Monmouth. They actually already lost embarrassingly at home to Monmouth, 62-48, not even putting up 50 points. So you might, you have to imagine that Towson will take this game seriously, knowing what happened to them at home against this Monmouth team. Monmouth is not a very good team either. Monmouth is coming off a win over Drexel. Monmouth does have a couple of huge games on deck against UNC Wilmington and College at Charleston, so there's the potential they look ahead here. I would lean to Towson in this game for all those reasons. One hesitation might be, though, that this is an isolated TV game. There are a few TV games on late at night here in Monmouth. They usually do not get a huge televised TV game like this at home. So Monmouth might actually get excited for it for that reason. So that is one hesitation that I have with it, although I would have a lean to Towson in this one, but it's not going to be on my card. Monmouth up from 1-2 here. I would slightly lean towards taking the points there. And I think that is it, man. That's going to do it. I talked about most of the games here. Few of the games that I skipped are kind of on the more uninteresting side of things. All right, man, that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out, guys. My one play today, one more time, is Tulane plus the points. I think it's a good spot to grab them. Now, you might be able to get 7 on this. Like I said, actually, we can see if there's a 7 right now on it. because the line looked like it was moving back up a little bit. I would still probably play it at the 6.5. KenPom, I think, has this line at 7. Yeah, it looks like 6.5s are pretty abundant right now. Some of the books are screwing you, which is, again, why you need an account at every book, man. But it looks like a couple of the biggest books have the 6.5 right now. I don't actually think it's going to get to 7 now that I see what's going on in the market there. But we'll go with Tulane plus the points. That's the one play today. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. You can subscribe to me on Twitter. That helps me with some support that way. Helps fund my habit. No, it helps me live, to be honest. Not taking in a whole lot of money right now, but we'll see what happens once the end of the month hits and I free up enough money to bankroll betting again. We'll see what happens. Like, subscribe to the channel here, of course. Give me good replies here. We got to boost this channel up, man. We've had some new subscribers, but I want it to go more. Next milestone is 500. I want to get to 1,000. Monetize this thing. Let's go, man. We are monetized on audio, so listening over there does help. On Spotify and Apple. Give me good reviews over there. Helps me out, too. Tell everybody about it, man. Word of mouth is the way that you do these things now. Something needs to blow up, man. Maybe some people could, make clips of the show or something and spread them around. I have no idea. Maybe I have to do that. I should, actually, probably. I don't know. I just have so much content. It's like, how do I dig through it and find, like, the best moments or whatever? I got to pay somebody to do it. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/learntotode. It's mostly bonus ukulele content there, but if you just want to support me, you can do that. You Covered in Uke is my ukulele channel on YouTube, so you can check that out there. And Losercast. We'll be back on Tuesday with a new episode of that, the new comedy podcast that I'm part of. That's going to do it, man. So, yeah, have a good Sunday, everybody, and we'll be back for probably a very light board on Monday because NBA doesn't resume until Thursday. The All-Star break continues, and then hockey is in full Olympic swing right now. So NHL won't be back for another week and a half or so. So a little bit of a break for me, I guess. So that's going to do it. Peace, everybody.